Generation Z, as they have been coined, consist of those born in 1995 or later. This generation makes up 25.9% of the United States population, the largest percentage, and contribute $44 billion to the American economy. By 2020, they will account for 1/3 of the United States population, certainly worth paying attention.
What I want to talk to you about is your generation, particularly because you have some really interesting thoughts on it. And there is no right answer. I'm genuinely actually asking the question out of curiosity. I think a lot of people would have these similar questions. Your generation, in response to the world around you, here's what I'm interested in. How is it most distinguished from your opinion? So you have the millennials, you have the Gen Xers, you have whatever you're calling our parents or my parents. Then you have Z. If you had to like sum it up, like you were on Survivor or whatever, what's the bullet point there? Because this is the most nebulous generation ever. Nobody knows how to write about them. Nobody knows how to demographic them, which I think makes you guys crazy interesting. I'm looking at it purely like from afar, just what you can tell me.
Yeah, the only thing I notice with all my friends is we definitely have more of an interest with the world and everything that's going on inside it, whether that be politics or this new invention that just came out or anything really. Still
you're engaged in the world you live in, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Still revolves around money and everything, but that'll never go away.
Right.
But definitely more concerned about the world itself.
Do you find that the average kid, say 16, 15, 14, whatever, 17, do they want to have those conversations, or do they want to go right to like the base? Do they want to have like the real conversation about like what's going on in the world, who's in charge, how they're allocating money? I mean, is that people do they do want to have a conversation with you?
From my experience with my friends, yes, but I go to a Christian school, a very small school where everyone knows each other and is pretty decently open with each other. And all the friends that I have that go to public schools, like I would say, yeah, they're pretty open to each other, but I don't really know.
That doesn't necessarily, you're saying that doesn't necessarily breach beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you find, this is even more interesting to me. So there's all these Christian kids and they're close and they grew up together, went to Christian school. What is how diverse are the opinions in that, just for the sake of this conversation, even though it might not be accurate, let's call it 50 people. In that 50 people from that generation, how diverse of thinking on any given subject will you find? Or will you find like a whole bunch of groupthink?
Everyone's thoughts on everything is different because even different religion topics, everyone was like, someone might have been raised Baptist, someone might have been raised Catholic. Even like one of my best friends I longboard with all the time is Mormon. So we definitely have a ton of different conversations about a ton of different things.
So you guys are like, everybody's always talking about diversity and they're always talking about, you guys are actually kind of doing that for real, because the irony was when I went to college, they gave a lot of like mouth music to that, but nobody was actually interested in that at all. Everybody segregated. Everybody just went to like whoever they were comfortable with. Is that? I know the sample pool that we're talking about isn't.
Oh yeah.
But it sounds like it's kind of happening with you guys.
Yeah, especially at my school because our Bible class generates a lot of conversation between the people in our grade. Just talking about like our conversation today is, where was Jesus the 3 days that he was dead, like he was actually pronounced dead? And we all have different views on that. We all have different interpretations of the Bible, but at the end of the day we can still walk out of the class and still be really good friends.
Which is rare, man. Which is really, really rare. Increasingly rare, and I can attest to that. Increasingly rare. Let me ask you another question. And again, I know you're not like the spokesperson for your gender, but I'm just curious about this. There's a lot, like, in other words, nowadays, my take on this, and granted this is more steered towards my Christian millennials, but if you say something that they don't like, or if you say something that rubs them the wrong way, they just like write you off as a person, or you're any series of names that they call you or whatever. The Generation Z, is that more or less like that? Yes or no? How's that play out? Because that's something that I run into all the time.
In my experience, in my opinion, like this is all just my opinion, all my friends are definitely a lot more forgiving and second chance giving type of people. But I do try to hang out with a good group of people too.
A good caliber of human being.
I can't say that everyone everywhere in my generation is like that, but
yeah,
from what I know.
This is a little more inside baseball, but the aspect of your generation and how they interact with Christianity, do you see it going in a hopeful direction or not so much? Is the cynicism increasing? Is the been there, done that attitude? Because I know that the Gen Xers and the millennials really aren't on board with evangelical Christianity.
Mm-hmm. People I know are pretty open-minded, but that goes both ways. That can't always be positive. That can also be negative. So people are excited to learn about religion. I know a lot of people that I've talked to, whether it be at work or at school or just on the street hanging out with friends. They're excited to learn about religion. They think that there might be a God, but they don't know which one is right. And they're always open enough for like asking questions. They'll come to you for questions, and they're excited to learn. But also the people that are Christians, there's always that open-minded thing of like, you know what, maybe there isn't a God. And it goes both ways.
Yeah, I see that.
So,
yeah. What you're saying is they're so open-minded that nothing sticks.
Yeah. It kind of, it's a helpful gift, but it can also hurt them at the same time.
Yeah. Probably makes for some great conversations, but when it comes to like life change, it's probably a little more difficult. This is something I'm interested in just because I had to navigate these waters. So I was more serious than my peers about my faith at a younger age. Is that an impediment? Or does that hurt you with your peers? I would imagine that not every Generation Z is like serious about Jesus.
I don't find it harder to talk to, like say if I was trying to talk to a millennial or something, and like they'll know I'm Christian, they'll know about like my past and stuff, and they might judge me for it, but it doesn't really matter to me what they think.
Really?
So
it doesn't matter to me what they think is not what I would expect you to say. I guess this is the easiest, most direct way to say that.
You know, what do they know?
It's very true. But still, you know where I'm going with this. Not just me. Anybody my age would be surprised to hear you say that. Why did that work for you?
I've always been taught just like be who you are, and if people don't like you for who you are, then that sucks for them.
Everybody's taught that, though.
Yeah,
you took it to heart.
Well, it's an easier way to live life with that mentality. And if you don't really chase after that and take it full on, life will suck a little more because you'll try to suck up to everyone. But if you actually take it on, it's more relaxed and you can just be you, and you'll have real friends, and it won't matter how you act around them because they like you, and if they don't, that sucks for them.
Wisdom from the mouth of babes. I like that. That's good stuff. From what I perceive in the media, from what I perceive, certainly when I went to college, you haven't gone yet, there is a hostility to evangelical Christianity. The assumption is that you're going to judge people. The assumption is that you're not going to be very nice to them. You're not going to be open-minded to them. The whole 9 yards, of which you probably already know. Not affecting you thus far? You're not feeling any of that? That's not really a part of your life? Or
people definitely judge, but still, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it goes along with it. You just got to be you and be okay with being you. So,
do you find that wins them over? Like, I mean, that kind of genuineness? Like, after a while, they just let the guard down and the hate and stuff goes away? Because that's really refreshing to hear that.
Not everyone in life is going to like you, and that's just how it goes. I'm a people pleaser. That's hard for me, but not everyone's going to like you. And yeah, that's not fun, but sometimes it just happens, and oh well. But especially growing up where I grew up, there were a lot of people, oh, you're a Christian, that means you're like super preachy, and if I hang out with you, you'll just be like, Jesus, 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 yeah. But no, it's definitely, the more you hang out with people, the less judgmental they'll be.
That's right.
If they get to know you.
Yeah.
Christians definitely do get categorized as something that's kind of just annoying to be around in a way.
Yeah.
Being too preachy and always trying to, oh, you're not a Christian? Well, let me tell you why you should be. Instead of, oh, you're not a Christian? That's really interesting. Tell me why. Like, you think that way.
Yes.
Or just being okay with them not being a Christian, still being worried for them, like, but
No,
just being okay with it.
Very true, man. Very, very true. And surprisingly enough, I'll just speak from my own personal generation. I think the reason that Christianity wears some of those reputations is because they deserve to, quite frankly. Now, in all fairness, I actually haven't seen so much of that from your generation, but I can tell you when I was growing up, the way church handled itself, the way Christians handled themselves, some of that reputation that we're dealing with is justified, because they would beat you over the head with that stuff. Now it's more like, and I think this is the way Christ lives his life, now it's more like you live that way, and there's a magnetism to that, or there isn't. And certainly you see that evidence in Christ, so it's a super cool answer. Interesting to me that you get, all right, here's another question for you. Your perception of the adults. This is interesting because the world sort of, everybody agrees, a lot of stuff's off the train tracks. Regardless of anybody's political bent or opinion on things, generally you talk to the average person, they're like, stuff's off the railroad tracks. Do you guys look at that and think, oh crap, this isn't looking good? Or do you look at that and think, nothing but opportunity out in front of us, super excited about the future? Like, in other words, is it doom and gloom from you guys, or is it like, no problem, we got this, it's all out in front of us, open fenceless fields, what's the deal, perspective-wise?
Depends on the person, I'd say.
Does it?
I mean, life's full of opportunities, so it depends how you look at it. If you're a glass half full person, then you'll be more of, maybe they didn't do the best, but we can turn it around. It'll be fun. It'll be awesome. Or if you're glass half empty, like, oh, we're screwed.
They're screwed. Student debt, no jobs. All right, a little more of a personal question. I'm impressed by you. You probably know that. What's the future? I mean, you're a young kid, so to some extent your answer is almost meaningless at this point. But out in front of you, as you see yourself and yourself interacting with the world, what would you like to do with yourself? Like, what's in front of you in life?
I have absolutely no idea. I looked at architecture for a while, but all the architects that I talked to were just super dull, super boring. They live to work, they don't work to live, that kind of thing. What
was it, by the way, was the architecture like the hybrid between the creative and the math? Is that what you liked about it? Yeah, because you have that thing going on, yeah.
And I looked at looked at law enforcement for a little bit, but I'm kind of getting turned off by that also, just because of, it's weird. There are crazy people, and I don't know. It's kind of a dangerous job too, and I don't know if that's really
just out of curiosity, what was something had to jump out at you to make you interested in law enforcement? Was it a friend or an experience? Or?
A lot of friends are interested in it also, and I like the thought of trying to help people.
Do good, bring good into the world, justice, yeah. You get that.
But another thing, I'm also looking at more musical things for the future too, because the only thing I've stayed consistent in loving to always do is sit down with any instrument and just start playing and being involved in music anywhere. So I am looking at music opportunities in the future.
I've gotten to do a lot of cool stuff with music. I get to see it lay over humanity in a bunch of different ways. Is one consistent? Doesn't matter what kind of culture you are, what you look like, what generation you are. There's something in the ingredients of it that isn't really of this world, which is really fascinating.
You know, there's the senses of like feeling and seeing and hearing and that kind of stuff. And I kind of feel that there's like another sense when the music actually hits home and you get to, because you feel the music sometimes.
Yes, I know exactly.
And it definitely enters you and affects you.
You're right, there's no sense to describe that.
Yeah.
Well said.